All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously chilling narrative that deconstructs a midnight train ride out of Pune. You know how waiting for a delayed train is usually just incredibly boring? Well, we are going to look at how that perfectly mundane scenario can twist into an absolute psychological nightmare. If you enjoy analyzing how stories build suspense and totally subvert our expectations, you are going to love the mechanics of this tale. So, picture this. I want you to imagine the pure isolation of a midnight transit. You're exhausted, it's December, there's a biting chill in the air, and honestly, you just want to get home. Now imagine finally stepping onto that train only to realize the doors have locked you into a journey that literally never ends. That is the exact eerie premise we are breaking down today. It's a total masterclass in claustrophobic storytelling. We follow our protagonist, Jatin. He finds himself stranded at a desolate station in Pune, Chinchwad Station, to be exact. It's midnight, and right off the bat, the story sets this incredibly foreboding stage. There's a beggar sleeping under the footover bridge who wakes up, asks Jatin what he's doing there, mentions the train is delayed, and then drops this super ominous piece of advice. He just says, "Don't talk to strangers." I mean, it's the classic horror harbinger trope, right? This is Jatin's first massive red flag. Let's track how this dread escalates. It's midnight, he's told the train is 3 hours late, but then, suddenly out of nowhere, a train pulls up. Exhausted, Jatin just ignores every single warning sign. He ignores the fact that he's the literal only passenger on the platform. He ignores the beggar giving him this deeply unsettling smile as the train pulls away. He just gets on. And at first, he's relieved. There's a cool breeze, but that relief shatters pretty fast when he distinctly hears and feels heavy, mysterious breathing right next to him in an entirely empty compartment. So he whips his eyes open, and there's no one immediately next to him. But as he scans the rest of the carriage, he spots another passenger way down near the far door. Craving just a bit of human connection, Jaden moves closer. But as he gets nearer, he notices the guy's face. The stranger is giving him this mysterious smile, but his eyes, they hold a terrifying emptiness, just a complete lifeless void. Naturally, Jaden tries to rationalize it to himself, thinking, hey, the train is just empty because it's so late, right? Yeah, well, those rationalizations fall apart instantly. Jatin looks out the window, and it is pitch black out there. Not a single station is passing by. The train has been moving for way too long. And then the true psychological horror kicks in. The stranger calmly points out exactly what Jatin is thinking. He looks right at him and says that no station has come and no station is ever going to come. He casually drops the bomb that Jatin is the only living person who boarded this train. The story then hits us with this jarring contrast to reveal what this entity actually is. Jatin looks away for just a split second, and when he glances back, the illusion is completely gone. The stranger's head is crushed, blood is just pouring down his face, and those empty eyes, they are literally missing entirely. Terrified, Jatin backs into a corner, clamps his eyes shut, and then he feels a hand on his shoulder. He opens his eyes, and the stranger looks perfectly normal again, casually asking Jatin why he's screaming. Talk about whiplash. When Jatin stammers something about seeing blood, the stranger is just like, oh, that's from a wound I got 20 years ago. And he calmly explains that exactly 2 decades prior, on a delayed night just like this one, he boarded a train with some drunk passengers. The train was basically empty, but an argument still broke out over space. The drunks physically threw him from the moving train. His head struck an electric pole, he fell onto the tracks, and before he could even move, an oncoming train crushed him. So a totally mundane argument over a seat led to his horrific death, and he's been riding this train searching for his killers ever since. Jatin is desperate at this point. He's clinging to any scrap of logic. He nervously jokes, trying to lighten the mood, saying something like, well, if a train ran over you, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. And that is exactly when the entity strips away his very last sliver of hope with one chilling line. Who told you I am alive? I am already dead. Absolute panic takes over. Jatin realizes he's completely out of his depths, but human re-instinct kicks in anyway. He lunges for the emergency chain and yanks it violently. But we're dealing with supernatural forces here, and they easily overpower him. Instead of braking, the train actually speeds up. It generates this massive jolt that violently throws Jatin right to the floor. He looks up, and the ghost is back in its horrifying, bloody form, looming over him, literally dripping blood onto Jatin's face. So Jatin does the only thing left to do. He starts begging for his life.
He's pleading, saying he'll do absolutely anything to help. The ghost suddenly steps back and says he wants mukti, which translates to liberation. Now, here is where the narrative brilliantly twists a traditional spiritual concept. Normally, mukti means spiritual freedom or salvation, right? A peaceful release. But here, it's a horrifying parasitic contract. The ghost explains that this ghost train has been running continuously since that night 20 years ago, and the spirit can only be freed if a living passenger willingly agrees to take its place in the loop.
So now Jatin, and honestly, us as the audience, are thrust directly into the middle of this terrifying psychological trap. The ghost lays out an impossible ultimatum. Jatin has to solve the puzzle of this train, but the price is staggeringly high. Does he choose to become a ghost forever, or does he face immediate, violent death before they even reach the next destination? The exact condition the ghost lays out is chilling. He says if you want to survive this train, you must play the role of the passenger who dies every time. This just perfectly illustrates the inescapable mechanics of the cursed loop. You see, the ghost isn't just killing for revenge anymore. He's bound by the rigid rules of the train itself. He is forced to either endlessly relive his own trauma or pass the burden onto the next unsuspecting soul who happens to step into the wrong carriage. Jatin is left weighing this completely impossible dilemma. He looks out the window one last time at that pitch-black darkness. If he refuses, he dies right there, violently. But if he accepts the deal, sure, he frees the ghost, but he inherently becomes the new entity haunting the train. It's a lose-lose situation. Neither option actually leads to him surviving. Both paths end his human life as he knows it. At this point, his mind just goes totally cold. The rhythmic drumming of the train tracks syncs up with his heartbeat. Fully defeated by the inescapable logic of the curse, Jatin slowly walks up to the stranger and surrenders. He utters the binding words, "Okay, I will free you." The very second he speaks that phrase, the train, which hadn't slowed down even once, violently screeches to a dead halt. A freezing gust of wind sweeps through the cabin, and the original ghost, he just smiles and dissolves right into the cold air. The aftermath of this choice is just incredibly grim. The train doors finally slide open, revealing absolutely nothing but the dark unknown. Jatin is left completely alone. But he doesn't step out. He realizes he literally can't. He has become the very monster he feared. He's permanently trapped, fused to the metal of the carriage. His only future now is to sit there and wait for the next doomed passenger to board so that maybe, one day, he can exact his own twisted version of mukti. The train slowly begins to move again, but this time around, Jatin knows there's no destination. There's no Mumbai, there's no Pune. There is only the eternal, predatory cycle of the loop. He's just waiting in the dark, waiting for the next person to make the terrible mistake of boarding an empty train in the dead of night. Now, in a truly fascinating and honestly kind of hilarious pivot, right after delivering this incredibly dark, atmospheric tale about eternal damnation, the original source material shifts gears entirely. The creator cheerfully invites viewers to go subscribe to their gaming channel so they can play live video games together. It is such a massive contrast between this intense, chilling horror narrative and the everyday hustle of digital content creation. You gotta respect the hustle, right? But bringing it back to the lore of the train itself, we're really left with this lingering, cyclical dread. The curse is very much active. That train is still running out there in the pitch black. Which leaves us with one terrifying thought. Who's going to be the next passenger to step onto that empty carriage and pay the ultimate price for Jatin's mukti? Thanks for exploring this twisted narrative with us today in this explainer. Stay curious and, maybe double check the schedule next time you wait for a midnight train.